Welcome to the She Cultivates podcast. My name is Elizabeth Savillon, and thank you for joining me on another episode. Here we talk about cultivating community, personal growth, and just giving you tools to cultivate your best self. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to this podcast and leave a review. All of that helps us to grow, and I would love to hear from you. We also have a new feature where you can leave a voicemail or question to be answered on the show. So make sure to check out the show notes below so that you can be a part of the show. And if you're an Orlando girly and you are in the Orlando community, I would love for you to join our She Cultivates Orlando events. We are hosting monthly events for women to cultivate friendships, connections, and just meet new people, because I feel like it is hard as an adult and as you grow in different stages of your life to make connections. And that's our goal, is to bring people together in different ways. And so this month we are hosting like a wine girls night, and then next month we're hosting another mingling experience, and we are also doing another podcast live this summer. So I'm very excited about that. We will be sharing more information very, very soon, and especially for our podcast listeners, you will have an extra perk because you listen to this podcast, and I would love to see you in person, because there's nothing like an in-person experience to actually get to know each other and connect and have these deeper conversations. On this week's episode, I am continuing the series about how to host intentional events. And I thought that this is a great way to go into the things that I wish that I would have done differently when I first started events. If I can go back to my 3 to 4 years ago self, when I first started this, just mistakes that I made, because I feel like we learn so much from the mistakes and the failures, just as much as we learn from the successes. But I genuinely think that we learn from the pain, because those are the things that help us to grow, and they help us to get better over time. And sometimes until we experience those things, we don't learn. And so for me, when we first started our She Cultivates community, I feel like I was just focused on the wrong thing. At the time when we did our first event, we did a vision board party. And I remember I wanted to make sure that we gave all like everything, for free. It was like, okay, including food and the decor and just something for them to take home and the activity for $30. Now looking back, I'm like, wow, that is something that realistically, that is just not right. When it comes to the numbers of how will you make money when all the materials cost a certain amount, and the location you have to rent out and all of that. And I think that things have changed a lot, but also I feel like people just focus so much on creating an Instagram worthy experience, that we forget that it's about what the value that they're going to take away. And this is something that, 3 years ago, I wish I would have remembered, but at the same time, you learned from it. And as we've evolved now, 3 years later, we're giving goodie bags and we're giving different perks, within, because of sponsorships and collaborations and vendors, and we're working with brands. But in the beginning, when you're first starting, it sometimes is difficult, and I don't want that to be hindering you or to stop you because you're like, oh, I can't, do all the things like a flower bar or, a coffee cart. It's those are just add-ons and extras, but the main thing is not that. They're not going to take away that. It's more of the experience that you're providing and what you promised them that you would provide. Today in 2026, when I tell you how people see those logistics, and I think it's beautiful to have in those aesthetics, but I think sometimes we forget the plot. We are too much into all those little details, and those are just added perks. I've had people till this day write me when we have an event, and they're like, hey, what's included for free within the event, what's in the goodie bag, what's in all of that. And someone coming from the event space, I think those are just added extras that I am so grateful that we're able to give to our community. But if that's why you're going to an event, is just because you're getting, I don't know, a skincare product, it's I think it's just reevaluating that. It's those are just additional things, but what you should get out of it is those connections or that class that was promised or that experience, and making those connections, because that's the community building. The other parts of, I've seen so many events that do like, okay, free tattoos, ear piercings, all of that. And hey, that's great. But those are just, again, additional things that if as you grow in your budget, as you grow in your profit, as you grow in your collaborations, you can add those things if that's meaningful to your experience. The second thing is kind of expecting things to just flow and that everyone will kind of know what to do. When in reality, if you do not have a good run of show, meaning if you don't have a clear timeline, what is everybody doing at the event? What is everybody's role at the event? So if you have people helping you to set up, like what are they doing? What time do they arrive? What are their roles? During, like before, during, and after the event, what are they supposed to be doing? When it comes to speaking points, what are you supposed to be saying? What are the things that should be announced, whether it's, the sponsorship names, uh, the upcoming events, how they can connect with the community. Something else that we always missed out on until probably like a year ago, to be honest, is that we would never have a table for us at the event, meaning at the event, we would always have vendor tables for other people, different activations for other people, but we would miss out on the opportunity for us to actually talk about our community, like, hey, like this is our merch. Hey, this is how you connect with us. Hey, here's our podcast. Hey, here's different resources. And that was something that was added. And to be honest, that was totally on me because a lot of the times, due to limited space or just like all the manpower that was needed, it was like, okay, like, so we have to position someone there, but like, who should do that? So I'm so grateful for the team now because that has been something that like we've upgraded our table and now it looks like more legit and it's actually helpful, for people to know how they can connect with you, how they can buy tickets for the next event, and just being more engaging and having some kind of activity at your event. And again, every event is different. And even if you are doing a 10-person event or a 5-person event, maybe having a QR code there where you share like, hey, this is how you connect with us, or making sure to have all their information, before in their registration, or, passing out some kind of card or flyer where they can take home of like, okay, like maybe they're not going to read it in the moment, but they will go home and they'll learn more about your brand or your business or your community, because that is so important, because those are just missed opportunities to connect with people and for them to get to know your mission and vision. And again, then we focus on all the other things and it's like, wait, I didn't even get, like, this was like, we weren't able to register people. Our last event that we had, we were able to register up to like 20 people that day that were at the event for the following event, and so if we wouldn't have had that opportunity and we missed it, it's like, then, all those people, like maybe they don't see the posts on social media, maybe they missed the email. And so just making sure to have touch points within your event that always go back to your community. And again, as you continue to work with brands and businesses, you want to have exposure for them, but never forget about you. And I feel like that was something that I wish I would have done from the beginning, because that is very, very essential. Another mistake I made when we first started was trying to do multiple events and different kind of events. I think in the beginning, the idea of bringing community together and just kind of having like, oh, like a hangout, like a girls' night, we did like a pottery night, like a pottery painting. We did like a brunch and sip. We hosted like pretty much a friendship social at a coffee shop. We also did a self-defense class. We did a dance class, and just different ways to engage with our community, because we were also learning our community, right? But I feel like a part of that is trial and error. Like, you do sometimes need to try things, but at the same time, we can get lost in just trying to have random events. It's like, hey, let's do, like a canoeing event. And then we also do a Pilates event. And then we also do a cake making class. And then so it's like a lot of those experiences first, they cost a lot to put them together. Most of the time, you have to, again, get a space or have a partnership with a place. But when you're first starting, that's not the case. So it's like you have to think about all those things that you need to rent out, or you have to rent out the place and then you're hoping that people pay you back with the tickets. Meaning, let's say you're doing a self defense class and it's for 20 people, it's $25, and you most likely have to book that before or reserve the spots before. And let's say you're just starting out and you don't have that big of an audience, then you're hoping that those spots fill up. But if not, then what happens? You end up having to pay for that. And I have had multiple times that I've had to put in money for the events, for coffees that I thought that were going to get bought, or tickets that didn't get sold, And so all those things, because you're anticipating and you're just trying different things and your overhead cost is so much, then you end up being in the negative, And that is something that is really difficult, especially long term, right? Because it's just not, it just causes burnout, and it honestly will make you feel like, is this even worth it? As much as you can love something, you don't want to resent your business. You don't want to feel resentful towards all the work and money and sweat and tears that you put into it, that over time, right? Like, the first year you're like, okay, like, let's just try it out. The second year, like, all right. And by the third year, like anybody else, they would feel like, what am I doing? And as much as like the impact that you're making, like you do want to see a return on that, financially, and that's just the reality. Like, unless you personally have some money set aside, right? That you're like, this is for my business and this is for my community. But most of the time, people that are hosting events in community, they start doing dual things. They're doing other things additionally to the hosting of events. And I think the trial and error of events is like, a part of it is being clear with your vision and mission and sticking to that for a while, meaning like trying out like, hey, this is the kind of event that I'm going to do for the next 3 months. I'm going to see how it picks up traction. And then I'm going to get feedback from my community and see, hey, what would you guys like to see more of? And like, what works, what doesn't? Because there's so many communities out there, right? And there's so many types of different events. I think in the wellness space, that is something that's growing so much. So as you see popular events, continue to grow, sometimes it's very easy to first try to mimic or be like, okay, should I be doing that? Because that's what seems like growing. But at the end of the day, like if that's not your community goal, if doing a wellness event or a Pilates class is not going to align with after that event, right? What's the next event? Is it going to be then an art class? Is it going to be then like a coffee and sip, or is it going to be, like what is the different ways that people can connect and touch point of that is streamlining for them to understand this is what my community is for. Because there's a lot of trendy things, right, that look really nice, that would be ideal. But at the same time, like that's how you will burn out, is by trying all these different things just to keep up with all the Instagram trends and all of that. The best way to get feedback from your community and see, hey, what do you guys want to see more of? What is something that aligns with you? And also remembering why you're doing what you're doing. And so I feel like with everything that I've learned over the past few years, it was always trying to do the things that I've always wanted to do, right? Like, the self-defense class was super fun. But at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, those are just like little opportunities, but my main goal is to connect people. So how can I do this more intentionally? And so that's where the friendship socials came. And we actually started that in 2023. And that came one of like our signature events that we would do, either at a coffee shop. Now we're doing it at a wine bar. And that has been part of our experience because that is intentionally like the foundation of what we want to do and aim to accomplish is through that experience, And finding that out for yourself is so important, because if not, it will feel like you're just trying different things, and you're like, okay, I'm doing this and this. And then when people ask you, what do you really do? You're like, well, we do this kind of event, but we can also do this or this or this. And it's not just about doing different meetups and events. It's about, if you're trying to cultivate community that is intentional and that is over time, and that is also selective, of you're not trying to do everything. This is what you do, and being clear with that. Another thing would be not being as consistent and not seeing how important it is to be consistent. Hosting an event on a specific day of the month or a specific day consistently of the week, I feel like just gives your audience just the reminder of like, hey, we're here. You can expect us on this day. And I think it's great, because that also just has people have like an expectation of it. Because if you do an event like on a Monday morning, and then you're like, okay, we'll do one on Saturday night, and then we'll also do this here, but we'll also do it maybe every other month or maybe once a month. But it's still scattered. It can cause a lot of confusion. And so I feel like I have found the best result when it's usually on the third week for us, right? On a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, but it's usually at night. And we have had, depending on what the event is, that's when we tailor the time. So it's like all our panel events are usually evening or like 5 to 8, on Friday or Saturday. Our socials are around the same time, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. Usually the third week of the month. And that has been the most consistent. We tried morning times one time. That was not as successful. Thursdays sometimes seem a little chaotic because people are working. So Fridays or Saturdays, ideally, and usually more in the evenings for us. But that was, again, through time and seeing also from the feedback that we got of like, hey, this is our time. There's still people that have asked us like, hey, why don't you do a Sunday event? Or hey, why don't you do like a midweek event? And that's just hasn't been our luck or audience, And so those are like one-offs. But realistically, it's like being clear on like when the time is and what day of the month. Another thing is also just remembering that there's so many different communities out there, and being okay with you not being the one for everyone. Because I think, especially in the beginning, right? Like, you're trying to grow your community, you're trying to just grow and get followers, but also followers does not mean that they're going to come to your event. And so it takes time, like through your social media, like it is so important to share the experience of what people are experiencing through your events, being intentional. Maybe you're not good at social media and maybe that's not your thing. Then you need to find someone that's going to help you with social media or be on your team for that, because social media is the best way to grow your community for free. Most of our events have been filled tickets because of social media, because of Instagram and TikTok. I can record myself just literally on my phone and be like, hey, like come to this event if you're looking for friends in Orlando. And those videos have thousands of views, comments, saves, shares, and those are simple, And so it's like every event, that's like my formula now. It's like recording a video, sharing a graphic, and sharing content from previous events. And that has been something that has been pivotal to our growth. And I feel like the biggest mistake people do is not put importance to social media or have everything organized and clear of like what are they going to expect for the event? What is happening at the event? When is it happening? How do they register? Like all those things. And in the beginning we used like Eventbrite, and then the fees started getting insane. And so then we switched to our own website, and that was an investment, but that came over time. Now there's so many different platforms and ways that you can, RSVP for things. But I think it's so important to remember to gather data, meaning like you have to capture everybody's name and email that's there, because that's very, very important. And then the second thing would be capturing content. And if, again, that day as a host, you are scrambling, you are running around, you have to assign someone or have someone, even if it's your family member, someone, your partner, to be like, hey, can you come and just like record a few clips, or remind yourself like these are the clips that I need to get throughout the event. But it is hard to do when you're also hosting. It's just number one pivotal for you to assign someone or find someone that can help you. And as your community grows, most of the time it comes from within, meaning there's people that within your community that love your community. They're like, hey, like I want to be more involved. And it's like, hey, if they love social media, hey, can you take a few clips for me? And that requires some intentionality too. That requires having a plan before the event. Like, what do I want the social media clips to be like, and getting inspiration from social media or just ideas, brainstorm with AI. Like, what should I get? What kind of content should I get? But that is something that people forget, that is your portfolio. Like, social media is a free portfolio and an advertisement, for your business. And all the different brands and partnerships and opportunities that we're getting now is because we have 3+ years of content, data, information from our community of people, of thousands of people at this point that have came to an event. And so all of that matters. And I feel like, especially when you're first starting, you can miss out on those things because you're like, oh, it doesn't matter. Like, just putting up a flyer like from Canva, but it's like having a video or a reel, or you talking through, or a voiceover, that is what's going to help you grow. So again, we can get lost in all those other little things. And, there's so many things that you learn by doing. And so I hope this doesn't discourage you to start. It's more of an encouragement to be like, hey, these are the things that I wish I would have focused on and done differently. And being clear on like, what is my community for, and that's really why I created the guide. My intentional community guide is because I know how hard it is to start events, like from the beginning, of like, okay, what's the purpose, to social media and all the things that you should have, and like having your branding. And then once you actually are planning for an event, you're like, okay, what should my timeline be? Like, what should I even be saying? Like, what activities should I do? Like, how do I make people connect? And so all those things are things that in the past 3 years I've learned. And I feel like that's the questions that I get a lot about. It's like, how can I do this? Like, I see people doing that. How can I do this? And no, you do not have to have a big following to start events. But I would say that you need to have a purpose, because if you just want to be an event that you did once and that's it, that's one thing. But most of us are looking for community. And I feel like to do that, you can be successful in it. You can find such joy and purpose within it. But at the same time, being clear and knowing what direction you're going is so important. And so that guide, if you are interested in that, I created a full guide for you, A through Z roadmap, and it's in the show notes below. And then if you're someone that already has a community and you're like, okay, yes, this is exactly what I'm going through, I feel like I'm already experiencing all those mistakes, like I need help with that and guidance, and you are someone that wants to talk to someone one-on-one, I've also created a coaching one-on-one for you. That way we can go through, hey, what's working, what's not working, how can we work together to make a plan, so that you can feel like, okay, I have these next 2 events set, or I have these next 3 events, or any questions that you can have. Because when I started, like, there wasn't people doing events like how they are now. And I feel like now there's so many people also trying to, do events, and they're like, okay, like, yeah, we're doing like a mastery, but it's so expensive. And it's like, okay, can I just like ask someone a question? Like, I just have some questions. And so I created that for people that, that need that. And so if that's helpful for you, make sure to check out the show notes below. And really, the intention of this episode is really to tell you that we will make mistakes along the way. And it's not about being perfect. It's about being consistent, and it's about showing up for your community, because I know that you have a passion for this, and if you're listening to this episode, it's probably because you really care about bringing people together, and you love hosting events, and you love all the logistics that go into it. But maybe you have a lot of questions and you're like, this is kind of harder than I thought. And even 3 years, into this, I'm still learning things, like even as things change and evolve in events, like how I shared of, what people expect now. How much, should you be charging for events, um, what is the market charging for events? Who am I trying to attract for my community today? Is it the same? Has it changed? And so you're always evolving and changing and growing as a community. But again, the purpose and the goal is always the same, and just always going back to that. It's like, is the event that I'm hosting getting me to the goal that I plan out and set out for my community? And that is so important. So I hope that this episode helped you. And if it did, I hope you share it with a friend, share it on social media, tag me at Elizabeth Savvy and She Cultivates ORL. And if you have any questions about anything event related, I would love to speak with you. So make sure to DM me and I will be there to respond to anything that any questions you may have, or just things that you would want me to talk more about on this podcast. Because we're doing a series about intentional event hosting that I wish I would have learned and knew when I first started. But I hope that this is helpful to you. And make sure to subscribe to this podcast, leave a review, and I will see you guys next week.